Second Floor Sports coming to you live from Ithaca and New Hyde Park, both in New York, best state in the continental U.S., if you ask me.
Damn right.
Thursday, August 27th. August 26th will be a day that we remember for a long time.
I mean,
the NBA
most
has had two of those already.
Literally the most unbelievable day that, like,
Yep.
you can't even write. You can't write this stuff.
We got an interview with Jake Asman, good friend of ours that we went to Ithaca with, ESPN Houston reporter, Sports Map host on the air. You can follow him on his social medias. We'll have that interview posted later today. But, Ben, let's get right to it. We're going to be talking the boycotts. We're going to be talking playoffs. We're going to be talking Messi maybe leaving Barcelona. Yes, you heard that. We're talking soccer on the show.
We're talking soccer. I mean, it's more than maybe. I mean,
we'll start.
We'll get into that.
You want to kick things off?
Sure. I'll kick it off with a question, Matias. So the Bucks Magic game yesterday was set for 4:00.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly wasn't even planning on watching it. I was like, all right, it's Bucks Magic. The series is over. Like, it's a wrap. I had very little interest in watching it. I was like doing laundry or something. I don't know. I start getting tweets on my phone, seeing notifications that the Bucks players aren't on the court. It's like 20 minutes till tip. It's 10 minutes till tip. It's 5 minutes till tip. No one's on the court.
Mm-hmm.
And we had kind of heard – we had heard initially that the Raptors and the Celtics were at least talking about a boycott. They were considering it. It was on the table. So this wasn't entirely out of nowhere necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
But then I go and, like, turn the game on. And it's just this really bizarre sight of, like, seeing the Magic, like, on the court, warming up, doing their layup lines and everything, and just court to themselves.
Yeah.
4:00 hits, the buzzer sounds, zeros on the shot clock, on the game clock. Bucks nowhere to be found.
Mm-hmm.
A couple minutes later, the Magic end up walking off the court. I don't know exactly when it was made official that the game was being boycotted. Probably around 4:30, if I had to guess.
I think a little earlier than that, honestly. I was watching – I don't have an exact time, but I was watching the whole thing, and the announcer said, they were like, here come your Orlando Magic or something like that. And it was just like, where's the other team? Yeah. Like what George Hill said is that, and we'll get into this later because some players did feel like they were blindsided a little bit. They decided it while they were in the locker room. They were like, I don't know what the exact conversation was, but it was probably along the lines of, what if we just don't play today? Like, this is ridiculous.
You and I were talking about earlier today before the show started about, like, I think we're both pretty excited to, like, kind of hear from the players.
Yeah.
Jordan and the Bucks made their statement outside their locker room, but to hear from, like, the Players Association, like the whole united front, to hear, like, what are their goals? What are their, like, what do they want? What specifically do they want to get out of this? I mean, there's so much conversation today about, not just with the NBA, but about people, fighting for social change. It's like, well, you can't just say we want change. You want to have something concrete you want to be fighting for. You want to say, like, here are our goals. We want X, Y, and Z to happen, and here's how we're going to get there. And that's, it's an important step. So I'm personally really curious to see kind of what the players come out and say, because, there's been a lot of this conversation on Twitter. It's like, well, what does the NBA have to do to get the players to agree to play again? It's like, what can they possibly do? I mean, if the players are truly dug in on this, like, what can the owners do right now to literally save the season? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it's our interview with Jake Asman. That was we had a 30-minute interview slated. He's a reporter for ESPN Houston. We were really excited to talk to him about everything Houston, Thunder.
The Houston Thunder.
Everything Houston and Thunder. I meant the series, Ben. And that just was not the topic of the conversation. Like, it's taken a complete backseat.
I mean, we texted him 2 days ago to see if he could come on.
Yeah.
And then we were working on the interview questions yesterday, like, afternoon. Maybe I think it was like maybe earlier in the morning. Classic, like, favorite series, who do you think MVP, like, who's going to win the chip? And then you have to completely change course.
Our entire document was just, what do we ask him? Because no one had any. I mean, up until this morning, it was possible that we weren't going to have an NBA season. Now things have kind of been, the tide's been turning a little bit. It seems like we're going to have an NBA season. It's kind of running through the timeline after the Bucks boycott. After that became official, it was pretty clear that teams weren't going to play for the rest of the day, right? Shortly thereafter, the Rockets canceled their game, and
it was the type of thing that's like you're watching and you can kind of like, once, at least for me, once the initial shock of like, oh my God, like this is really happening wore off. It's kind of like, well, I don't see any way that Chris Paul is going to agree to play. I don't see any way that LeBron is going to agree to play.
No.
And I think the official announcement came within like an hour of the Bucks Magic scheduled tip-off that all 3 games that day were canceled.
Yeah, I was still watching NBA TV when they canceled the other games. That's obviously the right move. You can't really, put the pressure on with a boycott if they're just going to have a game 2 hours later, right?
Oh, exactly. Completely kills the point.
So the other games get postponed, boycott, whatever you want to call it. And then, not really a foreseen ripple, but in solidarity, following suit, the WNBA, who they originally were going to play their games, they canceled the remaining games. The NHL said, we are not going to postpone games, but we completely support and back anyone who chooses to do so. When we talked to Jake about that, I share the same sentiment as him. Don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No.
MLB had a couple of cancellations.
You don't want it to be a hollow statement. Like, you'd rather you don't want a hollow statement. You don't want to just like do something performatively. Just like, oh, we did. It's like something we talked about with Jake was like the thing I think that's so awesome about the way the NBA's handled this is it was player driven. The players came up with the idea and the players executed it. It wasn't like a top down message. It wasn't like mandated by the league. It was natural, and it came out of what the players themselves wanted to accomplish.
Nothing about what happened yesterday was funny, but there were 2 funny tweets I saw yesterday.
Okay.
I'm going to toot my own horn. One of them was from me. I thought absolute banger of a tweet. Don't worry. The other one isn't from me.
Literally, who is this kid?
Well, it was just funny because like this was
wow. That really is an all-time line. I saw 2 funny tweets yesterday. One of them was my own.
Okay, well, hear me out and you tell me this isn't funny, all right? The first one was, this was very player-driven, which I think is great because even though, it's the NBA.
Is this your tweet you're talking about, or is this the other tweet?
No. This is just the context. I think it's, the NBA allows, there to be Black Lives Matter on the courts, and they're allowing certain phrases to be on the back of the jerseys. But this has all been spearheaded by the players, which I think is better, honestly. Yes, correct. I was responsible for 50% of all funny tweets.
Yeah, Matias was definitely responsible for all those tweets.
Oh, you spelled my name wrong. But like the games get postponed. They've already announced they're not going to play it. And then the NBA comes down and is like, yeah, we're postponing all the games. And it was like, this literally seems like you're getting broken up with. And you're like, okay, no,
actually, I'm going to break up with you. Exactly.
Yeah. And then the only other funny tweet.
Yeah, there were 2 funny tweets yesterday.
As soon as this all was going down, our good friend Jack Powers from the Outcast Pod goes, I wonder what Clay Travis is going to say.
Flames, actually.
And it was along the lines of millionaires don't know what it's like, blah, 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 this and that. And basically to a T, he tweeted it out.
Absolutely sniped it.
Absolutely hilarious. Props to Jack Powers. So, yeah. That was the only funny tweets from yesterday. But on a more serious note, a historic day, right? We looked at the Thunder and Jazz game getting canceled because of COVID, and we're like, wow, this is one of the biggest days of
and we
NBA
both
history.
and we were
5 months later, here we are again.
You and I were together. We were literally at a bar, like looking at the TV, being like, what the hell is going? Like, what's happening right now? And I was like, all right, this is hands down the craziest day I've ever seen in basketball. And 5 months, 5 months later. Yeah, a little over 5 months. That day, it far surpassed.
It's been almost 6 months since Tiger King.
Wow,
that doesn't make any sense to me.
Nuts.
A long theory from the show is that time doesn't exist anyway.
Time is not real.
But that is bonkers.
Oh, don't get me going on that. We can do a whole. That's a different podcast. That's a very different podcast.
So games are all postponed. Other leagues are other leagues are deciding to, cancel their games, postpone their games. And then it gets to the nighttime because we knew there was going to be a meeting because the big thing was, does the season continue, right? We're boycotting this. Do we have this as a one-game boycott, or do we just say enough is enough and like we can't do this any longer? Because that was a concern coming into the bubble was, there was a ESPN article from Woj that said Kyrie Irving, the disruptor, right? Because
quote
he was
unquote,
concerned.
like
Yeah. He was concerned
I honestly,
that,
you had brought that up earlier before the show, and I'd completely forgotten about that article. And it's like kind of remarkable that a guy like Woj could like publish an article like that, just kind of
right?
like shitting on Kyrie Irving.
There are a lot of people that need to apologize to Kyrie Irving because it has clearly happened. Like there is no sporting event that can happen right now in the United States that does not talk about what is going on. We had this, I sent you a text yesterday, right? I was watching the Mets game and they were talking about the fact that they're going to play, but obviously things are very up in the air right now. And literally, Gary Cohen is talking about, racial injustices and Black Lives Matter as Cano smacks the ball into deep right field. Like
Tom
objectively
Brennan
hilarious. Yeah. Like a little different, but
a little different, but the same sentiment.
Yeah.
It's like, as two broadcasters, it's kind of like, I mean, how do you handle that? Like you're there to do a job. Like you're literally, your job is to call the game. And it's like you get going in these conversations and it's kind of like, how do you manage it? It's tough.
Yeah. And I mean, it's good.
I don't think we've ever been in any situation like that, calling a game together. Not that I can think of. Don't
think so. I think 4 years ago yesterday, Colin Kaepernick kneeled for the first time.
Literally.
And we called one game. It was against Utica. No,
it was against
Hobart.
Hobart.
I don't remember. Was it Al Smith? Something like that. He was a defensive lineman.
It was because he was the same guy that got thrown out.
Yeah, and he wore like number 2 or something.
Yeah,
it was weird.
Classic college defensive lineman number.
The only player we've seen in our 2 years of broadcasting, I think, of football that took a knee. And raised his fist in the air.
Gladney take a knee our sophomore year? Someone took a knee. Was it?
Yes,
it might have been Kenny
broadcasting.
Bradley. I don't remember who it was.
I don't remember.
Big
I think
someone about it though.
Yeah, someone did. There was a big Ithacan article. I mean, it's undeniable.
Literally, you just get that Jeff Passan notification?
I did not know what happened.
Boston Red Sox players have strongly considered not playing tonight's games against the Toronto Blue Jays.
Wow. Okay. You also are frozen in a very unfortunate position. Oh, now you're not. You're frozen in a very unfortunate position in the Instagram Live. I hope it saves
it.
I mean, not like the Boston Red Sox really come out and play any game, but that is interesting. That is interesting because the Brewers, obviously the shooting in Kenosha is in it's in their home state, and that's the same thing that Milwaukee went for, although other teams that obviously play outside.
Well, yeah, it's obviously bigger than just Milwaukee.
Yeah. But they said this was an important thing. This is something we felt like we need to do, but we're going to probably play tomorrow, right? That'd be interesting now is if it continues. I would imagine that the reason now the NBA has announced that they expect games to start back up by Friday or by the weekend. I imagine that they have the day off because they haven't really solidified it. Baseball, there's no talks about that. So that's big for the Boston Red Sox to be considering a boycott on the next day.
It's also
they played yesterday.
Situation. I mean, it's just like, and what the hell does the league do? If you're Adam Silver, I mean, I can't imagine Adam Silver is.
I don't think there's anything you can do.
2 p.m. yesterday.
I think the only thing Adam Silver can do
something.
The only thing Adam Silver can do is not punish teams that boycotted yesterday because there is a no-show clause.
I'm not at all saying you punish them, but you got to address this.
Yeah. Oh, you do.
What do you do? You just show up to the next set of games. And you're like, all right, what's up, guys? Like nothing to see here.
Adam Silver's not in the bubble, right? I don't think he's in the bubble.
Probably not. He's probably
I got more important things to do, like making sure his league doesn't catch fire than watch basketball.
But I mean, literally, how do you handle this? There's never been anything like this, and we were talking about this earlier. It's like, if the Players Association comes out and says like, we're not playing until you do X, Y, and Z.
Mm-hmm.
What's the response?
Well, that's the tough part because, like, there is nothing that can be done absolutely immediately, right?
No.
Like, and that is not to discourage doing anything. And that's an
That's the point that Jake brought up a bunch.
important point that Jake brought up. You know, we are very far removed at point in terms of a generation from the civil rights movement, but we're only 50 years out.
Yeah.
Almost 60 years. That is not that much time, right? Like, but what we have learned is that change doesn't happen overnight, regardless of legislature and all that. But we've already seen some of the impacts, right? Because like we talked about with broadcasters, we're talking about it, right? That's a start in of itself.
Yeah.
Now, on top of that, you know, if you were watching NBA TV yesterday, like, that was the only thing that they were talking about when the game was canceled. Instead of there being a playoff game between the reigning MVP and soon to be the two-time MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, Giannis Antetokounmpo, going for, yeah, like, they were talking about that. That was it. And, you know, Chris Webber had great things to say. Robert Horry said great things later in the day, and that was the whole thing.
I forget who it was. I'm literally trying to find this clip. It wasn't Robert Horry. It was someone on NBA TV, and
it's Jim Jackson. Jim Jackson.
I'll have to look up his face.
Was it the analyst?
I'm not exactly sure.
Was he in studio or was he at the game?
No, he was like at his home or something.
I think it was
like calling in. No, it wasn't Jim Jackson. I don't know who it was. I'll have to figure it out. Whoever it was, if they're watching this live stream,
I think it was Sam Cassell.
It wasn't Sam Cassell. It definitely was not ET. But
you mean IT?
No, ET. You ever seen Sam Cassell look like ET?
Oh. I was like, who the hell is ET?
Etuan Moore.
That's so mean. That's so mean.
He looks like ET.
He does really look like ET, though. Sorry, Sam Cassell.
Sam Cassell,
but he was talking about having a military past and all that, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yep.
I thought that was
frozen again.
Commentary. You're the one's frozen. What do you mean?
No. Now we're good.
No, you're still frozen, bro. Are you frozen on the Zoom call?
No, I'm not frozen on mine either.
Huh.
Well, anyways,
show goes on.
So what were you saying?
Just that commentary from the guy who was talking about how he had like a military past, was just talking about like the fact that it's generational. It's like, you know, he was talking about like he's giving his kids the same talk that his dad gave him about like how to interact with the police and not like get shot. Talking about like when he's in the car, he puts his wallet on the center console so he doesn't have to like reach into his pocket. Like it's ridiculous. Like literally years and years, 100 years of this. More. And you saw the Dom Smith post-game interview.
It was hard to watch, man.
Literally, it was heartbreaking. Like this guy is up there just in tears.
Yeah.
I think this line is like, it's just crazy that people still don't care.
Yeah.
It's like, it's unbelievable. It's like something that you and I can't necessarily relate to. Not necessarily, we can't relate to it.
Yeah.
You see these people just like bearing their soul. And the Dom Smith, if you haven't seen the Dom Smith interview, go watch it. It's like, bring some tissues. It's hard to watch.
Yeah, and he had Steve Gallops was the sideline reporter, or the the third member of the crew for or fourth, I should say, if Keith is there, for SNY. He was doing interview pieces the whole hiatus, and he had one with Dom about racism in America, and that was a good piece too. I think it's on YouTube. You can watch it free. Like, this shit is tough, man. Like, and like, as two white dudes from Manhattan and Brooklyn and Long Island, it's the city, from Brooklyn and New York and Long Island, like respectively, like, who the hell are we to talk about this? Like, it's hard for us too, because it's an uncomfortable conversation that we need to have, and it shouldn't be an uncomfortable conversation if you're not racist.
Yeah.
But it's important.
Actually, it's not quite. I don't know if I'd quite say that. It's an uncomfortable conversation because it's ugly. It's a very
it's not a nice topic to talk about.
Like, but it is the truth, and it's like
we would much rather be talking about why the Rockets switching on everything against Chris Paul isn't working right now, but that's not what the main topic of conversation has to be right now.
And I mean, I think, it was really interesting to hear Jake talk about it. As a national host, he said it himself. He's like, you can't just stick to sports.
Yeah, you can't.
Like, it's such a frustrating point to say, like, oh, your sports are supposed to be a release. Like, I don't want to hear about this. It's like, you're just ignoring the issue. Like, you are just blatantly ignoring it if that's the case.
You wanna like get away from that stuff. Watch a movie or something, right? Like, because you can't
go to the beach and throw your phone in the ocean. Like,
because to be able to have a release from it is a privilege in of itself, right? Like, there are some people that like there is no escaping this, and that's the way it should be. We should be surrounded by this conversation until we get to a point where we don't need to have it anymore. And that's
gonna be really a long time.
That's going to be a long damn time, but we might as well start now, right?
Well, exactly.
Like, that was
it's a generational change. It's not something that happens overnight. But like you said, you can't let that be an excuse to not make the effort.
Mm-hmm.
It's a step. You got to start somewhere.
Mm-hmm. And good point. Your friend Noah in the group chat on Instagram Live here. People who try to ignore these issues, Nolan, sorry. Ouch. People who try to ignore these issues through the lens of sports is like watching TV during a tornado. You're absolutely right.
I like that.
Yeah, I like that. Thank you, Nolan. So let's move forward on this. Where do we go from here, right? The owners have already donated $300 million over the next 10 years.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money. But each owner is worth multiple billions, some of them. Steve Ballmer is worth tens of billions of dollars, right? I don't have the exact number in front of me, and I don't want to play that game where I'm like, oh, their net worth is this and this. They should be donating X amount. But over 10 years, $300 million, when you still have owners that,
it's not insignificant. It is.
No.
Like, just because it's not a lot of money for them, if where the money is going, it's a significant amount of money.
Yeah, absolutely is. When you're like, what can they do more? I saw there was the timeline was really coming for Chris Mannix, who's a Yahoo Sports reporter, I think. Really like his stuff, but he was like, what more can these owners do? And it's like, these guys have a lot of political pull. Like, these are some of the most influential people.
Like,
they have
clout.
They have lots of clout, and they have the power. They got to do this. And I mean, speaking of clout, are those mine?
Nah.
Sure, from sophomore year?
I've had these.
Okay. It's clout goggles. And it's like, I mean, you look at like, the Betsy DeVos, the Secretary of Education, her brother-in-law, I think, is the Magic chairman.
Yeah.
So it's like,
I think we're thinking of the exact same tweet where they like released a statement about racial injustice and so on.
Yeah.
Like, God, I wonder if your family knows anyone in a position of power. That's crazy.
Yeah, right. It would be crazy, right? Or to just be like completely reversing like years of work in Title IX, help for survivors on college campuses, right? Like, there are people that can do stuff. Yeah. Do I have all the answers? Does Ben have all the answers? Does really anyone have all the answers? No. But, it starts with, Jason Concepcion from The Ringer, who has his fantastic desktop. I don't know if you watch it.
Not as much as I should, honestly. I like desktop, though.
Yeah, I agree. Not as much as I should. But, like tweeting out some articles where it's like, there are owners that like host like police union stuff and like support unions and things. And, I don't want to get into the defund the police conversation right now. I don't think that's the point of our show right now, but it's the whole like money helps, but where are you putting money to, right? Like, it has to be in a place where it's going to help.
Throwing money is not necessarily a solution.
Yeah. You can't just throw money. It's got to be for reform, right? Because you can't look at someone that is complaining about, you can't look at a black person in America and tell them that they're going to be okay because, they're throwing money at people, and these owners are already doing all they can, which we know it's not all they can. You can't say that to them.
Something else you got to consider is like, how much do some of these owners care? Like, we have no clue.
Yeah. You know, I really don't think Betsy DeVos's brother-in-law cares that
Probably
much,
not.
right?
And like
Like Betsy DeVos
with,
is
with
safe.
the with the massive, yeah, agreed. With the massive caveat that I don't personally know a single NBA owner.
You're right, I don't. But I
I can
also
tell
know
you,
that he donated. I saw online he donated $3,500 to Trump,
yeah,
right? Like, I don't think he's a big fan of Black Lives Matter.
probably not. No, if I
But
if I had to go out on a
likelihood
limb
is,
here and guess,
he is not. Again, like you can't say owners are doing everything they can because they're throwing what is a very large amount of money. And then look at two separate videos from Kenosha, from the same police department. One where a man who was just getting in his car and has done nothing wrong, regardless of what his past is, and gets shot seven
well, no, he was.
times.
The thing you got to remember is he was literally resisting arrest. Like that's not
Yeah,
up for
yeah,
debate. He shouldn't have
no,
been shot 7 times in the back, but
yeah.
like he was literally resisting arrest. They're like
Well,
that's
the whole
inarguable.
thing was there was a video of a white man also resisting arrest from the same department,
Taking an
running
axe
around and attacking a police officer. That is why there were no NBA games yesterday, right? Because they are not treated the same.
Not to mention,
And
Jacob Blake literally went over state lines with a rifle after killing 2 people, walking
yeah,
right through a police line.
yep.
It's like
And nothing was done.
kid literally
He was
walking around with a gun, walking
right.
right
And
through
then the
police.
Kenosha Police Department, the police chief comes out and says, you know, if he had just obeyed curfew, it would have been fine.
Oh,
Well,
because
guess
that was
what?
the issue. That was obviously.
Guess what? Guess what, jackass? The other guy wasn't obeying curfew too, right? It belongs to everyone. So
This is why there weren't any NBA games. It's the
this
hypocrisy.
is why there were no NBA games
Hypocrisy
yesterday.
of it.
This is why Kyrie Irving did not want to go to the bubble because they thought it would be a distraction. Now, I agree with what Jay Gasman said in the interview. I think you said you agree too, where I think the biggest platform for the NBA is to keep playing.
Yes.
And, you know, the boycott clearly worked because we're all talking about it again in a more ramped up way. And there are going to be changes because the Lakers and Clippers last night said they want to shut down the season. And that wasn't a final vote. That was them. That was LeBron and Kawhi. And Kawhi, who is not a very outspoken person that we know.
Not publicly, no.
Not publicly. Right. That was them saying this shit isn't worth it. We're not playing this until whatever changes they want happens, until owners do more or whatever. And they walked out of the meeting, right? That's a negotiation tactic.
Reportedly led by LeBron. Like LeBron walked out and everyone followed him.
Yeah. And Udonis Haslam, LeBron knows.
Still in the league. Literally every time I see Udonis Haslam.
Shout out.
Literally, I saw that tweet and I was like, wait. Like he's still around? Holy shit.
Dude, he's never gonna retire.
No.
Well, he's gonna be like an assistant coach.
Is he like the self-appointed sexiest man in the NBA? Didn't he call himself that? I could have sworn that was a thing. Like he was like on like a podcast with D Wade, and he like, I might be completely making this up. I could have sworn I saw that he like self-appointed himself the sexiest man in the league.
All right, well, if you say
Good
so.
Good for you, D.
Like, you know, LeBron knows what pull he has, right? Yeah. Kawhi might not be an outspoken leader of the league, but he is a top 5 player in the league.
I've got to imagine Kawhi probably has a lot of respect amongst NBA players for his just kind of like all ball, no nonsense attitude. Like he's not about the glitz and the glamour and the celebrity life. He's a guy.
I mean, there's no reason to not like him.
Exactly.
Like as a person, there's no reason. I mean, I kind of have a reason, but you know, that's him as a basketball player. I you know, as whatever. I also don't know him. But like, you know, they know the pull they have, and that's kind of a negotiation tactic to kind of get the ball rolling. Because if they're like, all right,
tactic,
what?
More than kind of it. I mean, it is literally.
It is.
It's a negotiation play.
Well, what I mean by saying it's kind of one is like the season was never going to end last night, right? They had a possibility it was going to end this morning at 11 a.m. where they had the NBA Board of Governors meeting, and then they had the players only meeting.
Right.
But you know, this is something that was talked seriously, and the owners have to be careful. They gotta. I think there's a meeting set up for later today that's going to be happening during our show, where they're going to be
a lot of
owners
meetings
set up. Yeah, a lot of meetings set up. Owners talking with players just about what they want.
Are you talking about the one that's like 2 players per team? That one?
Yeah, it's going to be 2 players per team. The season is walking on a fine line here.
Well,
I think they finish it, but
we haven't even mentioned this point. The season is currently like will likely continue. Is the current sentiment from Woj. Like that is what has been reported as up to date as we can be. Is that the season is expected to be completed. They won't be playing any games today, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just like, again, like where do they go from here?
That's
like,
the $1 million question.
It's the $1 trillion question. I mean,
yeah.
At something is gonna. I would have to assume at some point we're going to see some sort of statement from the Players Association, kind of explaining themselves and explaining what it is they want and what they're angling for, like what their point was in this strike. I think technically it is a strike, not a boycott.
Yeah,
I was reading about that. It's about like withholding labor, not your money.
Mm-hmm.
And semantics, but
yeah,
and it's like you try to wrap your head around it. I'm just like, I have absolutely no clue.
Honestly, like regardless of how this continues to go, like utmost respect for the players,
Seriously.
right? Like the Bucks, say all you want about Bucks Magic being over, right? That series was over, but they went out there ready to forfeit that game. They went out there knowing we're not going to go out and it's going to be a 3-2 series, and we don't play our best basketball 2 nights, like 2 games in a row,
to the Magic,
and we go home. Yeah, they already lost once, right? Like, could happen again. Everyone has off nights. Like,
I got a hard question for you.
Hit me.
Let's say we're in the conference finals.
Mm-hmm.
You think this still happens? Honest to God, do you think it still happens?
I think so.
You think so?
Like, I mean, look, it's conference finals at that point, but don't forget like Raptors Celtics, they were talking about this. They're already in the semifinals.
Yeah.
Like that's one round removed. And like, look, there was a lot of concern with these players coming in that this was going to take away from the issue. Like, they know the power they have, especially in this bubble. And this certainly something they have to consider when they were thinking about if they were going to end their season over, CBA ramifications. There would be a lockout next season. If they didn't finish the season, still possible if they don't finish it. And so many other things would go wrong. And that something that Woj tweeted out was like, players decided they were going to finish the season, 1, because they feel like they can still have a big platform, and 2, because, let's be real too. A lot of this was players just like very fed up with the bubble, right? Like it is not, I get it. They're being paid a lot of money.
Post-game interview the other day.
Yeah. And also, I'll say, fuck Raja Bell, honestly. You saw what he said on his podcast. So. He was like, nobody gives a shit.
I'm up to date on Raja Bell's podcast.
Well, I saw it because it popped up. He has a podcast for The Ringer, which is The Ringer usually does a very good job of getting out good content. But Raja Bell was like Paul George, nobody wants to hear that shit. Like, keep that shit to yourself.
I guess like Chuck saying the same thing.
Charles Barkley?
Yeah.
Okay, well then fuck Charles Barkley too. Fuck Charles Barkley too. Like, like again, this is like this man is coming out and saying like he's feeling very anxious, he's depressed, like in a bad spot in the bubble.
Like,
yeah, like that's
the balls it takes to come out and say something like that.
Like that is not easy. Like there's a reason people don't go to therapy, right? Because they're embarrassed, they're afraid, this or that, whatever. Like
there's a big difference between going to therapy and doing an interview on national TV saying you're depressed and anxious. Like holy shit.
And like, look,
unless your therapist is like telling the national media about your fucking mental illness, which I don't think
that's illegal. That's also illegal too.
Very illegal.
Yeah. Like look, this would not have changed my like the respect I have for him to come out and say this to start. But if Paul George, after game 3 or game 4, whatever, when he struggled, he had said like, I'm in a dark place or whatever, people would have been like, oh, he's using it as an excuse. Again, I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
People would have used it. This man came out and dropped like 35 and they hung like a 150 piece on the Mavs. And he was like, yeah, like I'm depressed. Like these guys are spending like 4 months away from their family. Like this shit is not easy. And like
that's something I keep thinking about too, in terms of like, continuing the season. Like these players have done a fucking lot to get into this bubble and to make this happen. Like they have made some sacrifices.
Yeah.
And have put themselves in some really tough positions. And so it's like, when you think about whether or not the season will continue, I'm sure something on the players' minds is like, we worked so hard to get to this point. Like, are you prepared to literally?
Yeah. Well, that's what Woj said. Yeah.
Like, are you ready to literally? I'm not like you're throwing it away for nothing, but the testing, the quarantining, the being away from your families, the dedication, and
Gotten this
everything they've
far.
done to get this far. You're in the playoffs.
And things.
Are you really
Sorry,
gonna scrap it?
Yeah,
And
and
I would imagine that's probably a point of debate.
and also remember at a point where things will start to get easier, right? Because as more people leave the bubble when they're eliminated, family members start coming in. So
Yeah.
you can have your wife or significant other or kids or whatever, and like you saw that video, right? Of Kyle Lowry getting introduced,
By his kids.
where like his kids were yelling, like the smile on his face, like you can tell, like he was hyped, he loved it, like, and like you gotta imagine, like someone as Kyle Lowry, like I don't know if his kids are going to the bubble, but like you're used to seeing your kids like every day, and like in a very like taxing profession, like everyone that works has to spend some time away from their kids.
Yeah.
But like
It's professional athletes. I mean,
yeah,
don't
like they're used to it. But the
Yeah.
fact that they haven't been able to do it for months on end in a very stressful time, like that's why like anyone that opts out, like no shame.
issue.
But like
Exactly.
that's gonna give players a boost.
Yeah. It's just I think it was like the Suns had the same thing where like they did like one of their like seating games they had instead of like the virtual fans, it was like all like the players like families and kids and stuff. And it's awesome, honestly. It's, so definitely file that one under things you love to see.
Absolutely. All right, are we ready to move to basketball?
You got any other big points you want to make?
I think I'm good. I mean, we're gonna have to wait to see.
Come right back to it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna have to wait to see what ends up happening. Yeah. As of right now, it looks like the season will continue again tomorrow or over the weekend, but honestly, who knows? Before we get into the like crux of the action, a little bit of coaching roulette going on. It happens every year, but pretty interesting names in there. Brett Brown got fired from the 76ers. We talked about this last episode.
Last time. I'm not. I had
not surprised. It's like it's putting a Band-Aid over a bullet wound.
It's putting a Band-Aid over a bullet wound, but it's also like we've seen this exact story before. Take the names out of it. Talented team, high expectations. Have some good success. Make it to the playoffs, first round, second round, maybe a conference finals, but you can't get over the hump. And you're constantly, a tier or maybe 2 tiers below those like elite championship level teams.
Mm-hmm.
You change up the head coach. You got to try something.
No, it happened with Dwayne Casey in Toronto. That's the most
like
that's the example.
Had an even better run than we could debate it. I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but I think Dwayne
he had a better run.
Was having a better time than Brett Brown.
Yeah, conference championships. I mean, exactly. Almost conference. It got to the conference championships.
Got to the conference championships and then got babied. But
constantly by LeBron. And look, I mean, like there were like some, there were certain parts about what Brett Brown was doing on offense, like his schemes that just weren't working, and he like lack of coaching.
You have like 17 centers.
Yeah, right. But that's why I'm saying, like, firing him does not change the fact that your second worst contract is the Al Horford one, which is a terrible contract, and he plays the same position as your best player, right? Yeah. Like, again, Band-Aid over a bullet wound.
I do not envy the Sixers.
No,
not a good. That's a really tough spot to be in, man.
Yeah,
like that's. I mean, like you're a winning team, you're making the playoffs, but like, do you really want to be that team that's like first, second round exit every year? Because it's kind of you're on a treadmill at that point.
It's literally like just being stuck in just purgatory. That's the worst spot to be. That's like
they're not stuck in purgatory. You want to know an NBA franchise that's stuck in purgatory?
No. The Knicks are not stuck in purgatory because you guys have been stuck in the basement. You guys aren't in purgatory. You're just in hell. Like you guys have sucked for so long.
Yeah,
it's different. Yeah. Like being stuck in purgatory. I'm talking about
watch Melo play in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's true. That's got to be nice at least, even though
fun, honestly.
Even though he is being overhyped right now, and like let's be real, he's just not an efficient scorer anymore.
No, not at all.
Although he has proved he belongs in the league.
That like dagger 3 he hit in game 1, I think, against LA. Oh my God, Stratton and I were going batshit.
Oh my God, I can't talk about this without being like incredibly inappropriate.
What?
Like, we won't talk about being stuck in purgatory. Like, this is like prime example was like the Atlanta Hawks, like with Al Horford on there, Paul Millsap. Like, always like a
The
top
player of
three
the
team.
month, Atlanta Hawks. Those Atlanta
Yeah,
Hawks.
player of the month, Atlanta Hawks. Like always top 3 seeds, always losing first, second round. Indiana Pacers, not like honestly, no. The perfect example of being stuck in purgatory, right? Nate McMillan just got fired, 183, 116. That was his regular season record.
Pretty good.
But very good. But then in the playoffs, 3-16, swept in 3 of the last 4 first-round series, and he's lost 9 consecutive playoff games. Now, again, you got to look at – you can't just look at it in a vacuum, right? This season, no Sabonis, and Oladipo's a shell of himself. Last season, no Oladipo.
He's coming back from a major injury.
Last season, no Oladipo, who was the best player. 2 seasons ago, remember they took the Cavs to 7 in the first round.
They lost by like a combined 14 points, I think, in 7 games.
Yeah, and then like there was that
ridiculous.
goaltend. There was that goaltend on Oladipo. They didn't get called in Game 7, right?
Wow, I forgot about that.
Like you're that close to eliminating like the Cavs. Like he wasn't a bad coach, although I will say. And like they did say it on the Low Post with him and Jeff Van Gundy were on it. They were talking about how the rumors.
Gundy.
What?
I love Van Gundy.
I love it. I do like Stan better though.
That's a debate, honestly. That's
as an analyst, I don't think there's any debate.
Well, I just mean like as a personality.
Okay, as a personality, is a little different. I do love the meme where it's just like anytime because Stan Van Gundy every day tweets out like social justice things and like every time under the comments there's always like a meme of him with just like the like explicit content. It looks like he's just releasing an album. It's hilarious. We'll post it on our Twitter later.
Yeah.
Anyway,
at 24 Sports on Twitter.
Like we were like they were talking about, like this has been a rumor all season long where like this might be it for McMillan because you know I don't have exact numbers in front of them, but they were saying like too large of a percentage was mid-range shots and like we're not following analytics, like not a very modern offense, and like Indiana's a grit and grind defensive team, right? They're not going to kill you in transition or anything like that.
Their identity.
Yeah, they're a good half-court team, but you think about like especially this season, this was unfair. And I'm going to transition into a question for you on this. If you're looking at the numbers,
notes?
What?
Should I be taking notes?
No, this is all in the document that is shared with you, Ben.
Cool.
Their expected starting lineup coming into this season, good starting lineup of Brogdon, Oladipo, TJ Warren, Sabonis, and Turner. That's a good team. That's a top 5 seed in the East, which is what they were. And that's like should make it into the second round team. They played a combined 86 minutes together this season, right? Because of various injuries.
Yeah.
So the question becomes, this is something I heard on the Bill Simmons podcast that was really interesting. For the Sixers and the Pacers, are these situations similar? Do you run things back because of injuries? Because you didn't have Ben Simmons if you're the Sixers, right? Or
I don't think they're similar.
Do you try to blow it up?
I think the difference for me, at least the way I see it, is the issue for the Pacers was a mix of injuries and just pure not quite as talented as other teams in the East.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at that playoff record for McMillan, like it's a double-edged sword. It kind of like, yeah, on one hand, they took the Cavs to 7 games, got a little bit unlucky in some situations, like could have, got I don't want to say got unlucky because you got to be good, you make your own luck to a certain degree.
Yeah.
But it's like, you also have to look at the fact that like they did lose. Nate McMillan did go 3-16 in the playoffs. And so that's 20 playoff games is not a small sample size.
19.
I'm rounding up. 19 playoff games is not a small sample size.
You're right.
At a certain point, you got to say, well, all right, shit, this isn't working. You've lost 16 playoff games and won 3. Like, something's not working. With Philly, I think it's a roster issue. And that's what we were talking about so much in the last show, where it's like, we've been having the conversation for a good 2-3 seasons now. It's like, can Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons play together? Yeah, they both have their share of injury issues. But it's like, even when they are perfectly healthy, I personally am not convinced that they can coincide together and be a championship contending team.
Hey, man, don't forget, they're like 4 bounces.
Is not an issue for the Sixers.
Ben, they are 4 like unlucky bounces away from a Kawhi Leonard shot from making into the finals. Like they were there.
Right. They were there.
I don't think I think last season. What?
Did they get there?
No, they didn't. But I think the biggest issue presently, I think the 76ers can make a roster around Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. It might not be a perfect fit, and it might be a lot harder to make a roster around them, and there's a much smaller margin of error. I concede all of that. I understand. But
Nolan is clearly not a big fan of Elton Brand's roster building skills.
I don't blame him. I mean,
couldn't construct a roster that plays well together. They chose from the all NBA teams.
Think about this though, Nolan. I'll ask you and I'll ask Ben. Like last season, Jimmy Butler is not the perfect fit for them, right? Because he can't really shoot threes, but he gets to the line. And at least if Jimmy Butler is driving and stuff, you have Joel Embiid to space it. Again, Ben Simmons needs
Joel Embiid to be your floor spacer though.
Yeah. But and also Ben Simmons needs to shoot the fucking ball. Like it's as simple as that.
My issue with the Sixers is I just don't think you can be a title contender when your two best players.
But they were. They showed that they were basically a title contender last season. The problem was
one time in 3 years does not make you a title contender.
Well, they literally did almost contend for a title last season. They were one shot away from contending for a title.
And the Sixers have been trying to be like a consistent top tier contender.
Well, I mean, look, if they don't trading for Tobias Harris last season and giving up a treasure chest, considering he was going to become a free agent, was stupid. Re-signing him to a huge deal and not re-signing Jimmy Butler and not re-signing JJ Redick, who what do you Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid? You want floor spacers, right? You probably need one or two more ball handlers. JJ Redick can do some of that, but he's probably the best.
Counting on JJ Redick to be a ball handler for you, you've got issues.
Okay, but he's a very good floor spacer, and that's the main reason you're bringing him in. You didn't retain Jimmy Butler and JJ Redick, which worked last season, and you brought in Tobias Harris, aka I've never made a playoff, an All-Star game before, and then Al Horford, who plays the same position as your starting center. If everything had gone perfectly, it could have worked. But guess what? It didn't, because you didn't have a very good head coach, and Elton Brand is way over his head.
I mean, I just don't think you can yeah, you're right. 100%. They literally came within one of the, an iconic shot of making the finals. But I feel I look at that and I say I feel like that was the peak for them. That was literally the best case scenario, and it didn't happen. And it's do you think in a vacuum, do you think Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons can be the two best players on an NBA championship team?
Yes, but the margin of error is a lot smaller. It's a lot smaller.
You look, no knock on either of their games. They're both two very good players, but they just don't fit. And I think they're both so talented that I would probably build around Embiid more than I'd build around Simmons.
Yep.
You can get a haul for either of those guys.
Very interesting trade, which we can talk about as we go more into the offseason, just because we do have a lot to hit on. Kevin O'Connor, all season long, has been saying, acquire Chris Paul. Smart player, floor general, can shoot well and play well.
They already have so much. They have so many cap issues already.
Oh, we got poor connection here.
I can hear you on the Zoom.
Yeah, I'm all frozen.
Damn. But it's I think, all right, let's say you trade Ben Simmons, right?
I think it's you. No, technical difficulties.
Can you hear me or no?
I can hear you on Zoom.
Yeah, it's not going on live. Oh, yeah, you're frozen.
There we go.
All
good now. Yep. Okay.
Right. Sorry about that. If you're the Sixers, you trade Ben Simmons. You're probably taking a loss talent-wise, just from if you can quantify talent and put it in a raw number. But we've seen it. It's the best teams. Look at the Raptors this year. The best teams play greater than the sum of their parts. The Sixers play as less than the sum of their parts because their roster is just so poorly constructed.
Yep. I still do think that they can coexist as the two best options on a championship team. That they're literally one shot away, and they lost to the NBA champions. Yep. I think if they had run it back this season, they could have been title contenders. They just fucked that up so badly. Sam Hinkie, my God.
Is he?
I was just reading stuff about him, just it was being basically a cult that follows him, which is true. I just they could have. I think they could have done damage. Let's just real quick touch on the other ones.
Now, do you just want to get right to what you want to talk about here?
Yeah, I'm gonna do it. I'm just gonna skip over really the other one. The Pacers are looking at Mike D'Antoni. They want a program builder and they want a more modern offense. Wouldn't be the worst fit.
No.
The one I want to talk about, the Nets are gonna go after Greg Popovich.
I am like very surprised how heavily you've bought into this already, honestly.
It's not that I've bought into it, but it is like you have to you got to think about it. Like, because like the Nets have for a while, they've said they wanted Pop. Like, this is not a new thing. There's a lot.
Every team in the league wants Pop.
But there are a lot of Popovich disciples on the Nets. You talk about the GM Sean Marks.
Yep.
You tell about Jacques Vaughn, who was also from the Pop coaching tree, and I think they have 2 or 3 other assistants that all coached in San Antonio. Like the connection is there. KD loves Greg Popovich. Apparently, when they were hiring Scott Brooks, like when they were looking at in 2015, like a coaching change or whatever, like Popovich was one of the names that came up. At this point, like you at least got to think about it if you're the Spurs, because look, if Doc Rivers,
I never thought I'd hear you say this. This is remarkable.
I don't think you should. I don't think it'll happen. But like, if the Nets come out and they're like, we'll trade you 3 first-round picks, and like we'll trade you 3 first-round picks, we'll trade you like Spencer Dinwiddie, and Pop says yes. Like, what do you do if you're the Spurs? Like 3 first-round picks?
3
they have
is a lot.
that is a lot. Like, you'd be foolish to not at least think about it.
What's the market rate for the best NBA coach of all time?
Well, you're gonna laugh. I know I already talked to you about this, but I did DM'd Bobby Marks, who works for ESPN. He's like a cap insider and all that. I had seen this. Someone from Spurs Twitter had DM'd him and asked him like what the return was for a coach. Look, Doc Rivers got a first for him, right? And you'd blow that out of the water. The Nets got 2 second rounders for Jason Kidd, who was a bad head coach. Like, you're thinking like minimum they get 2 first rounders and like a good player. It's got to be super favorable for the Spurs.
LeVert, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, if they don't think he can play with KD,
LeVert's your best non-Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving player.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yeah, not particularly close either.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you're more than willing to give up Karis LeVert to have Pop coaching KD and Kyrie together. Like,
absolutely.
And that is a title contending team.
That's not like it. It wouldn't be like, I don't know what scenario the Nets don't say yes. Like 3 firsts might be a little steep. Because the way that Kyrie and KD can be if shit doesn't work out after 2 years.
Live video, I think.
Yeah, live is toast. We'll start it back up in the next hour, but
I'm just gonna quit out of this.
Like, all right, just thinking about like, things don't work out in 2 years, like they might want to leave.
Well, yeah, it's something else. Like, I feel
so
like
you got to be careful of that.
And it's a huge all in to go swing this trade for Pop.
Yeah,
you don't know what is going to happen with KD and his return from the Achilles injury. I mean, like, obviously the Nets have been. Well, I'm not going to say obviously. It's Kevin Durant. The Nets are probably in touch with Kevin Durant about his progress on his return.
I would hope so.
You would hope so. I mean, can you imagine a team like not being aware of like the superstars' rehab progress? Can you imagine?
You know why I can imagine it? Because as much as the Spurs tried to be in contact with Kawhi, he kind of refused to.
Dennis.
Uncle freaking Dennis, man. Continue what you were saying. I just don't think I think you at least have to entertain it.
All in. It is like to the middle. You're like, we are winning a title in the next 2 years, and like you better do it because if that if they're there for KD and Kyrie, there for another 3 seasons, you got to make something happen.
Consider Ben. Thank you so much for joining me. let's just
Honor to be
wrap
here, man.
this.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, of course, no problem. Let's
Friend of
just
the
wrap
pod.
this up because we want to move on to the action. Like,
Yeah.
final thoughts on Pop and the Nets.
I don't think it happens. I think the
Me
Spurs
neither.
have every right to make the asking price. It'd literally have to be the Godfather offer. Like,
Yep.
it would have to be like the most absurd. It would probably have to look like the Paul George trade, honestly.
Yeah.
Like multiple firsts, talented players. Like, I don't think it happens. I don't think the Nets have the assets to do it. And I think the
No.
Nets have learned their lesson. I had different ownership, but the Nets have probably learned their lesson about making absurd trades, trying to go all in.
You got to remember, too.
To be fair, and my last thought on this.
Yep.
I'd much rather trade for Greg Popovich than a washed-up Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett.
You're right. I mean, remember that tweet that was like, would you rather have like Jason Tatum or Brad Stevens, right? Something like that.
Right,
like,
yeah.
Like, obviously, you'd always pick the player.
Yeah.
But, again, yeah, he's not washed up. You also do have to remember that Greg Popovich is basically year to year coaching.
Yeah, I was literally read my mind. Like,
after his wife died, like he was the whole thing. People thought like this was it. They thought he was just going to coach the Olympics, finish the season off.
Well, he was kind of like
and then
implying. He wasn't like coming out and saying it, but he was kind of like painting that picture, wasn't he? That it was the Olympics might be the end for him.
And now who knows? Does he hold off and try to make it to the Olympics? I mean, man's like 72.
Well, and like Pop is the type of guy who's once he's doesn't love it anymore, I can't see him sticking around.
No, why would he?
Exactly. He could do a little more with his career. I think he's got some more to fight for. He really hasn't done much.
I think he's good.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Let's talk a little bit of playoffs. 10 minutes here. I'll start off. Luka freaking Doncic. Oh my God.
Luka legend, baby. Luka legend. I mean, what more can you say about him? This is a legend in the making. Like,
more than the legend is here.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you're right.
And I've said this to like basically everyone I've talked to in the last couple of days since his Game 4 performance. I honestly don't know if there are that many more impressive performances that I've like personally watched. Obviously, I wasn't there, but like games where I like sat and watched the entire thing and like watched the whole deal unfold. I mean, like his ankle was busted. Like that's as bad as sprain. It looked as bad as sprain as it could be. He couldn't finish the game out. Our good friend of the show, Stratton Javanos, PT student, was like, yeah, that's like a textbook.
The PT student.
The PT student. He said, and all the other PT guys we're friends with said, textbook high ankle sprain, like literally what you are taught to look for when a player sprains his ankle. 48 hours later, comes out, puts up a 40-point triple-double.
Without his number two.
Without his
number two.
Hit the game-tying bucket at the end of regulation. Then hit the second longest buzzer beater in NBA history on a step back. Like, just
I don't understand. I don't understand why the Clippers switched there. Like, that makes no sense. How are you gonna let Bobby Shmurda guard Luka Doncic? Like,
it's confusing that we haven't seen more Kawhi on Luka.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's no myth that the more energy you spend on defense, the less you're going to have for offense. And the way that Paul George has played, they've needed Kawhi to average 32 points a game. And I think we're all forgetting, too. This is something we were really forgetting coming into the playoffs. Like, is Kawhi, like, the best playoff performer in the league right now?
Statistically, like, the last four – I'm sure we saw the same tweet. Like, if you look at his numbers from the last four playoffs, he is the best playoff performer in the league.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not really art. It's like – I don't have the numbers right here, but it's like – put up like 33, 8, 6, 50, 40, 90. Like,
yeah,
literally the best playoff performer in the league.
Mm-hmm. Finally, Paul George.
He breaks out.
He broke out, and it was much needed. Much needed. It went for like 35. Very efficient.
I didn't think PG was going to continue playing like shit the entire playoffs.
Yeah.
Like, he was due for a game. And it's like, yeah, say what you will about like Doc Rivers leaving him in there in a 40-point game to just put up numbers. But that's honestly, I think, is a great move because it's confidence. It builds his confidence. Doc Rivers has seen it all. A guy who's been around the league forever.
Yeah.
And he could tell that Paul George needed a game like that to just go out and cook.
Yeah.
Like, literally just from watching him play in Game 5 compared to the first 4 games, looked so much more comfortable, so much more fluid. He needed a breakout game.
Sometimes it's just a funk too, because I mean, look, give credit where credit is due. Like Dorian Finney-Smith was fantastic on him up to Game 5. He was
Rangers game just got postponed.
The A's Rangers game. Wow. Okay. So we're seeing a big ripple from yesterday, which is big because a lot of these we thought were just going to last. Dorian Finney-Smith played great on PG up to this point. Maxi Kleba has just been a non-factor on offense for them, unfortunately. Just 3 for 20 from 3, which is disappointing because he is a good player.
That's literally his only job is to shoot. To shoot threes.
But his defense individually on Paul George had been pretty good. Like Paul George is a very talented player. You're not going to completely.
It was kind of like a chicken or the egg. Is Maxi Kleber really locking up Paul George, or was Paul George having a rough stretch?
Well, it was both. Give credit where credit is due. Maxi did play good defense on him, but there were a lot of wide open shots that Paul George was missing.
That's kind of what I'm getting at. I honestly think it was more Paul George having a rough stretch than it was Maxi Kleber being a lockdown defender, because not exactly his reputation in the league.
Uh-huh. Shout out some of the role pieces and the other options that the Mavs had, because without Porzingis, a lot of the offense had to fall on Tim Hardaway Jr., Trey Burke, and Seth Curry. Shout out 2 of those 3 playing for the Knicks at one point. I mean, they've all had really good seasons. Like, look, none of them are going to light it up defensively, but at least if they can hold their own and take up, I don't know what the exact stat was. I was Kevin O'Connor had a good video breakdown about Game 4 on his Ringer YouTube page about how there's no other ball handler on the Mavs. The most really good teams have 2 big ball handlers. It's just Luka for them, and then for the rest of it, it's Tim Hardaway Jr., Trey Burke, and Seth Curry. And I mean, give credit where credit is due. Like, they are catching the ball, they are shooting the 3, and they're hitting their shots. That's really
Luka's
all you need.
The way he is, you don't need a whole lot more in the way of ball handling.
Yeah, and hey, Nolan, say all you want saying that your offense is fucked if it's falling on Tim Hardaway Jr.'s shoulders, but this man's putting up 19.
A good player,
putting up 19 points a game, shooting 45% from the field, 39% from 3 with a 73% free throw percentage, which isn't great, but shooting around 40% from catch and shoot. I mean, look, we all think Tim Hardaway Jr. is garbage because he has a big contract, but
he got painted in a bad light. The Knicks signed him to a contract that he just didn't deserve at the time.
Yeah. And he was really a throw-in for Porzingis, but he's played well.
Well, it was for cap space.
Yeah.
And then, but I'm looking at his contract now. If this is the Tim Hardaway we get moving forward, 19, 20 points to get, I'm just a shooter, a guy who's there to get buckets, a Lou Will type of player. I'm not comparing him to Lou Will, but just like all offense, you're going to get 20 points a game on 45, 50% shooting and good percentages from deep. That's a guy I'd pay 15, 16, 17 mil a year for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Thunder Rockets.
Let's run through the NBA next 10 minutes because we got a lot of soccer to talk about.
Lou Dort, man. Actually, all right,
Yeah.
I got something for you.
Hit me.
A deep cut. Do you remember the NBA 2K Dynasty draft Yumi and Hessig did in LA?
Yeah. We played 1 or 2 games, right?
I think we were in 1 or 2 seasons.
We didn't play that. We didn't play 2 seasons.
We simmed 2 seasons, I think.
Yeah.
No, we didn't play all the way through.
Uh-huh.
Lou Dort, I drafted him, and he was putting up 29 a game his first season. I literally took him because he was the highest rated rookie on the board, and I was like, okay, sure, Lou Gans Dort, whoever the hell this is. And so now I'm just seeing him
29,
something absurd, yeah.
You mean the man that's shooting 5 of 23 from 3?
That one, yep. It's a video game. Anyways,
it's time to praise Lou Dort though, because I ask you this: is this the most unexpectedly interesting matchup of round 1?
Absolutely.
Harden versus Dort.
Who would have thought that the guy who has shut James Harden down better than anyone we've seen the last 2 years would be Lou Dort?
I mean, look, the the knock on him coming out of college, out of Arizona State, and they do train him and James Harden, both graduated from Arizona State.
Yep.
They train together in the summers. Like the knock on him was his shooting ability,
Yep.
and if he, like his decision making, but he was always very good defensively. That man is built like a cement truck. Like he
looks like a linebacker.
Yeah.
Like
He's huge and he is quick and smart.
and like
That's
did
what
see
you
the
need
B-ball
against.
breakdown video of him against Harden.
No, I didn't, but I think it was a Kevin Connors one.
The thing that kind of stood out to me the most about the way he's been defending Harden is it's none of like the gimmicks we've seen against people trying to defend Harden. Like you sit on his offhand, you force him right, you deny the step back, and like you basically
He's
like,
just on him.
He's just like chest to chest,
Just-
locked up on him. And it's like Harden's so strong and like so good
Yeah.
at creating contact, and then Dort can literally be like chest to chest with him right there, and then he just like the bullfighters, like the cape. He just pulls away at the last second, throws Harden off balance, doesn't draw the foul. Harden misses the layup. Like, unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if you're Billy Donovan, like I can't imagine you're sitting there before game one being like, God, like this Rockets team is really good, but thank God we've got Lou Dort to defend James Harden. Like, I'm sure, obviously, like he's a good defender, you know what he's got, but like I can't imagine you're the Thunder coaching staff are sitting there like expecting Lou Dort to be the lock on James Harden.
He's literally like, the problem is like when you're gonna go defend James Harden, like the three things that Lou Dort does well, like you gotta be able to do. And I know Jeremy Goldstein putting in as a joke and to try to reel me in that Frank Ntilikina can lock up James Harden. But in all seriousness, let's have this conversation, because Frank Ntilikina is a good defender on point guards. You know who else is a very good defender? SGA.
Yeah.
The problem is to defend James Harden.
Similar, honestly, like similar. I'm not
except that one is like significantly better.
But like SGA is like what not anymore so much, but like what I thought Ntilikina could be.
Shout out SGA. I really like watching him play.
I love him. Well, it's fun. It's so much fun watching. This is a tangent. I'm not really related to this, but like, it's so much fun watching those type of players who like aren't super athletic, aren't like.
He's very athletic.
I mean, he's an NBA player. He's like super athletic, but not like jump out the gym like. I'm crazy athletic like for NBA standards.
Yeah.
But just a guy who, similar to Luka, a guy who just like knows how to play, knows how to change speeds, knows how to mess with
so
angles.
Long.
Yeah.
Like he's very long and he's a smart defender, much like Ntilikina. The problem is they're not strong enough, and that's where middle linebacker Lou Dort comes in. Like he's got the strength, like he can keep up with Harden. If you read Zach Lowe's piece, a lot of the videos are just him just putting his chest in, right, like keeping it in front of him, and like just being able to like maneuver around screens. Like he's just refusing to be screened. I saw a lot of the numbers that I have some up here, like about 30 about like 30 screens a game, or like 20 screens a game coming into their last game, because again, the Rockets don't have that traditional big man anymore after trading Clint Capella, and that was what was giving the Thunder issues on defense when the Rockets were on defense in the first couple games, was that you have like,
because they were playing Steven Adams off the floor.
Yeah,
which is exactly
and Steven Adams is good.
I mean, it was exactly what the Rockets try to do, is make the big man irrelevant.
Yeah, and if you're gonna, like, the thing with the Rockets, it's tough, because if you're gonna have a big man out there that can't shoot, that can't score from outside of the paint, he has to be able. There have to be two things, right? He has to be able to gobble up offensive rebounds, which Steven Adams can do. He can do, but not at the highest rate in the league, right? That's not like, he's not the best at that.
No.
And you can't have other non-shooters on the court. It's just as simple as that, because they're going to exploit it. So
I mean, think about
the problem is, and think about this, like you can't not have Dort on the court. You can't not match him up with James Harden.
No,
if
you just got to tie him to Harden's playing time.
Yeah.
Like if James Harden's on the floor, Lou Dort's on the floor. It's that simple.
Yep.
I mean, it's like what we were saying with Philly. Like, can an NBA team run with two non-shooters on the floor for an extended period of time? Today,
it's
I don't think so.
You can against certain
teams. Look what's killed.
Certainly not against
Philly
the
in the playoffs so many years. His teams just play 15 feet off Ben Simmons. They're him to shoot. Same with Joel Embiid. Like,
at least Joel Embiid can hit at least like 34% of his threes, right? It's better than zero.
I think he's like 28 or something.
Ugh.
Not a good shooter.
Anyway, the lineup they've gone with: Chris Paul, SGA, Dennis Schroeder, that 3-guard lineup, which is not really a surprise because Schroeder's been fantastic for them.
Yeah.
Dort and then Gallinari playing as the small ball 5. Gallinari is what you want your 5 to be. That's shout out, also former Nick.
Hey, former Knicks killing it in the playoffs is a long story, long history there.
Love it. You leave the Knicks and kill it on another team in the playoffs, and then you go to the Knicks to
Marcus
have
Morris
your career die.
tying 3 for the Clippers. Like,
yeah. Also, fuck Marcus Morris.
yeah,
You think that was intentional? I think that was it. It didn't look good.
It didn't look good.
If you didn't, okay. For viewers that didn't know, like Luka's ankle is messed up, and there's like an aerial shot, and then you have the rail cam shot of Marcus Morris like coming up to pressure him, which is not unheard of. But he just steps on his ankle.
Yeah,
and like it doesn't look good.
No,
it doesn't look non-intentional enough to like kind of disregard it type of thing.
And it's the type of thing that like you never know.
Yeah, no.
You never know.
But Gallo, that lineup I just said, small sample size, just 11 minutes, but plus 16, and that's been working for them the last couple of games.
Plus minus is such like a iffy stat. It's easy. It's influenced by a lot of things that are not necessarily like related to the 5 on the floor. Like who have they played those 11 minutes against? Have they been playing against scrubs? Like what's the score been in the game? I plus minus honestly kind of not a big fan.
I know. Not a big fan, but in a small sample size, worth noting.
Yeah.
I think, because we want to get to other points, I want to bring up a couple of last stats on the Rockets. Then we'll talk about Nuggets Jazz for a couple minutes because then we're going to hit Messi.
Yep.
Anything else to add about that series? You think the Rockets are in trouble?
Absolutely. Are you kidding? Yeah.
Even if Westbrook comes back?
Yeah, honestly, because I think even if Westbrook comes back, he's probably playing limited minutes, and Westbrook his game is predicated on his athleticism. Mm-hmm. If he can't explode the way he normally can, that takes a lot from his game. He's certainly not a shooter. Mm-hmm. And I've been on the show here before. I got kind of ripped apart for it, but I've long held the opinion that I don't think he moves the needle enough to turn the Rockets into a title favorite. Mm-hmm. He makes them better, yeah. But, it's the same questions we've been having about the Rockets for 3 years now. It's like, are they enough? Do they have enough?
Mm-hmm. Well, so the stats I wanted to bring up were about ISO, because I know this is, again, not a new conversation with us. We've literally said, like, the same thing over the last 3 years, right?
Yeah.
About how you hate watching Harden play basketball because he just ISOs all the time.
Just as a fan, I don't.
Yeah. Does that translate into playoff basketball? I found this interesting stat from, again, everyone's got to go read that Zach Lowe piece on ESPN. Really good.
We'll post it on the page.
Yeah. So the stat was there are 4 teams that have cracked 1 point per possession on isolations in the regular season. This is from Second Spectrum, fantastic on stats. And then 7 already in the playoffs. The Bucks, Pacers, and Jazz are about at 115, right? Mm-hmm. So, again, in the playoffs, a lot of times it just comes down to ISOs and just hunting mismatches because you got your best players just playing. And the problem for Houston is your best players playing. I meant to say you have your best players just going to work. The problem for Houston is you trade away your center because you want to create more space for Westbrook and for Harden to go to work without that other creator. Because, look, Daniel House isn't that bad. They have other players on that team that are solid. Like Robert Covington isn't going to make offense for you guys.
I'm so shocked you just went straight to Daniel House.
Well, no, because I'm saying like these are players that have performed well, like Ben McLemore and all that. They've performed well, but they're not going to be the offensive creators that you need. No. That's the problem because if Dort is shutting down Harden, 50% of the time, who the hell else is making offense for you?
Exactly.
Not Robert Covington. That's for damn sure.
No. Well, I think part of the issue is no one else on the Rockets other than Westbrook is equipped to be that next guy. Mm-hmm. We'll see. I mean, the Rockets haven't – I think the frustrating thing if you're a Rockets fan too is like you want to talk about a team that's been like right there the way we were talking about with Philly. Yeah. Houston has been right there.
Yeah. Like I think –
repeatedly come up short.
I think purgatory is a pretty wide, like kind of space to be in because you got like the Pacers.
What's the square footage you think?
It's got to be like at least like 35 by 35, right? Like, I think because you have the Pacers like at the bottom of that zone where it's like can make the playoffs. Like you're always like, oh, well, they can make some noise this year. But
Yeah.
it's always like first and second round. And then you have the Houston Rockets where it's just like, you don't make it to the conference championship, at least it's a lost season. And you're like, bro, we should be making it into the finals. Right?
Yeah.
Let's talk like briefly some Nuggets
Real
Jazz.
quick. I mean, we kind of covered this, and literally nothing is like really changed. I think it's all down to Jamal Murray. If the Nuggets can get the good Jamal Murray consistently, I think they can come back in the series.
Yeah. I think there's an interesting ringer piece where like, should the Nuggets try to go after Ben Simmons because they need a good like wing defender? Because without Gary Harris, you know, they just don't have point of attack defenders, and then it's killing them. Like Michael Porter Jr. is a sieve defensively. Like Jamal Murray is not good defensively. Like Nikola Jokic is a good help defender and a good team defender, but not a very good individual defender. He's got tire
But
tracks.
Also, how often
yeah, but that's the problem is that
Nikola Jokic's on-ball defense isn't the difference, I don't think.
Okay, but think about this. Like, if you can't stop people from driving into the paint, like, would you rather have Rudy Gobert on defense or Nikola Jokic?
No, Gobert.
Like, that's the problem. I know, but I'm saying, like, he's getting exposed a lot more now because they don't have those defenders on the wing.
I mean, I think the thing you got to remember with the Nuggets, too, is, like, their best years are ahead of them. They've got for my money,
you say that, but they have a lot of players they got to pay, and at this point, that's
another issue. But like,
it's two straight years where they haven't made it to the conference finals, where you got to look at it and be like, if they lose in the first round or don't make it,
their trajectory is going up. They're improving every year. Jokic is
not if. Well, I mean, look at it. Like last season, they made it to the second round. If they lose in the first round, that is certainly not an up trajectory.
Okay, fair, yeah. But just you look at like the talent and the skill level of their players. Jokic is young. Jamal Murray is young. Michael Porter Jr. looks exactly like what they wanted when they drafted him late when he fell because of his back injury.
And they need his defense to come up. Like
he's young. He's a rookie. Like I would bank on him improving defensively. Not a rookie. Yeah, I'm not.
Yeah.
A young player in his first season in the NBA, like first real season. Mm-hmm. Gary Harris, Jamal Murray. Jeremy Grant was a phenomenal move. Will Barton. Yeah. I'm buying Nugget stock is what I'm trying to say. I think they're going to be a top 3 team, a fixture at the top of the West for the next few years.
I just think they might need to shake something up a little bit. Not hugely, not that big, but you got to think like Jamal Murray's contract is huge.
You're probably not moving Jamal Murray.
No, I don't know if you should try, but you need a serviceable shooting guard. And then you got to think about where do you play MPJ? Like, what do you want to do with him? What do you want to do with Jeremy Grant?
If you can turn MPJ into like at least a solid rim protector, and you could run some fun lineups.
You play him at the 4.
If Jokic is, or I'm saying if like Jokic is off the floor, you run MPJ at the 5.
We're so far removed from that though. Like he's got to make like astronomical.
I'm kind of just spitballing here.
Yeah. He's got to make an astronomical jump on defense.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk
Messi time.
Leo Messi. I mean, this is like, I'm not a huge soccer fan, but like this is as big a story like as you could have in the world of soccer.
Yep.
I mean, I know where you stand on the GOAT debate here, or at least the Messi versus Ronaldo debate. I mean, you take it away here.
Okay, so things have kind of been brewing a little bit on the Barcelona side for a couple of years now. Like you lose a lot of really good players. You have, retirements from Puyol. PK's getting older. Sergio Busquets has been in that midfield for like 10 years at this point. Like Xavi retires. Like Dani Alves leaves. Like these are like big names that you're losing. Neymar leaves. You don't have any replacement for him. And they have just been, again, like the Sixers, like this has been a growing bullet hole. Keeps getting bigger, and they just keep throwing on Band-Aids. And you think about like they sign Dembele to a huge deal, over $100 million, and he's just been injured the whole time, and he has commitment issues and all that. And then you sign Antonio Griezmann, who's fantastic from Atletico Madrid, and he hasn't done shit for you. And just the signings have been really bad, and there hasn't been a lot of overhaul. It's been a story for a couple of years now that's like, damn, Messi is not going to finish his career here. Like there was already like
And there's,
was
to be fair, a long history of like top European soccer players.
Yeah.
Not, they can't quite keep up with like in the Premier League or in the La Liga or wherever they're playing, and then they come to the U.S. But
well, I mean, it makes sense. Like, think about it. Like, you know how much pressure Messi has been under his whole like career. Why wouldn't you want to just like fucking retire and like be a little more relaxed, right? Like most people think that he is going to finish his career in Argentina with Newell's, where he came from. Mm-hmm. The team's called the Old Boys. Pretty sick.
Nice.
So like, it's been a rumor for a while that's like Messi might not finish his career in Barcelona, but is it going to be Barcelona, another team, to remain competitive somewhere else, and then go to Argentina and finish his career there? Like, who knows? And a good friend of mine from high school, Marvin, who has a soccer show now, SUNY Old Westbury, just joined. So I'm curious to see what he throws in the chat here. But look, I mean, Barcelona really shit the bed with Messi. Like they did not do enough to keep him content. Like the president for Barcelona at this point has said, like, if it'll keep Messi at Barcelona, he's willing to like sit like to fucking to get off his spot, like, and just retire as the president. Mm-hmm. Like, the signings haven't been good, and now the real issue comes with, can he go anywhere? Because he has a release clause, but that needed to be signed by a certain date in early July, I believe it was.
Uh-huh.
Now, his legal team thinks
I was going to say, is this the type of thing that he is like dead set, like you can't change it? Or is this kind of
there's an exact date there. That is a free transfer if he opts out of his contract by then. The thing that happens is his legal team thinks that they're entitled to kind of an extension, because the reason they picked that date is because that's after all competitions are over. So Messi was probably like, all right, shit, if we, if it's a fifth straight year now, if this is a 5 straight years now, they haven't won the Champions League, right? And they got embarrassed by Bayern Munich. So that date was set in place because it's like, okay, if we shit the bed again this year, leave or whatever, it'll be free transfer. I can go wherever.
Yep.
His legal team thinks that should extend now to the end of this season, which would allow it to be a free transfer, and he can go wherever he pleases. Obviously, it would be a lot easier. Barcelona obviously does not think that's the case.
No.
Koeman has already come in, the new manager for Barca, and said, like, no one is safe. Like, there has to be accountability. Like, shit that you should say.
Classic new manager.
Yeah. No one is safe. Like, Piqué, who has been for that team for like 15 years at this point, is just like, if I have to leave, I got to leave, whatever. Like, there's going to be major changes. I think the most likely case is that Messi ends up going to the City. I think they announced it today. It was Bernardo Silva, Gabriel Jesus, Eric Garcia, and 100 million euros. That's a lot of money.
Euros.
So he's got like a $600 million release clause or some crazy shit like that. That would be the offer. Because no one wants it to turn into a legal battle, because if they're battling over that release date, like, Messi's obviously not going to play for Barcelona, and he's not going to be able to go there. Barcelona's not going to be able to get anything in return. It's just going to turn ugly. But when Zlatan came to the MLS, he owned, like, he was a share owner in some of the teams, and that would be the offer.
Really?
Because the same owner, it's like an ownership group that has City and NYCFC. So, what happens? Does he play for City for a couple years, then come over to the MLS?
Well, and that's what the reports have been.
Yeah, that's how they compensate a player when they just can't dish out that amount of money, which the MLS can't.
Yeah.
Do they make him a part owner? And, I mean, look, if you think Messi was I know soccer's a lot more popular in Spain, but can you imagine Messi playing in the MLS, even for a season?
Can you imagine Messi playing at Yankee Stadium?
Would he be the best athlete to have ever played in the Yankee Stadium? Yes, right?
No. I mean,
no?
I don't think so.
Huh. Interesting. I think so.
I mean, is Messi it's such a different type of athleticism.
Okay, so not best athlete. Best at his respective sport.
I mean, are we talking like the history of Yankee Stadium, or are we talking just the new Yankee Stadium?
I mean, if it's the new Yankee Stadium, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, if we're talking strictly the new Yankee Stadium, probably.
But if we're talking just overall Yankee Stadium.
I mean, then I make it. What do you want me to do? Compare Messi to Babe Ruth? Like,
I don't know. We'll send out a poll and we'll talk about it for our next one, so we can think about it a little more. But I think so. This is probably the greatest soccer player of all time, right? Like
more like Pele.
Who played without offsides? Like
fair.
Like, I don't know. What do you want me to tell you, dude? Like
you're asking me to compare Messi to Babe Ruth.
That would be really interesting. I think he ends up going to City. It makes more sense. He's played with Pep Guardiola before. He can play with Aguero there.
Yeah.
I know I'm kind of talking to a wall, like soccer wise.
Sorry.
No, I don't. No, I don't mean to. No, I don't mean any disrespect. But it's like you talking. It's like you talking about hockey to me. Although I will say, I turned on the Islanders game because I saw they were in OT. I'm trying to get into hockey. I'm really trying.
Hockey is the way to do it.
It's fun. I've watched like parts of it, but I'm trying to. I figure I'll start watching the league as a whole, and then I'll just attach to a team. Islanders are the easiest team for me to attach to. I live in Long Island. Go Island, baby. But I literally turn on the game, and like a minute later, they get scored on.
Yeah.
Like, so it might be a bad omen, honestly.
I don't know.
Got anything else on soccer, or you want to wrap things up with baseball, and then we'll huge mailbag?
Real quick baseball.
Okay.
I mean, another classic Jacob deGrom start last night.
Classic. 14 strikeouts, bullpen blew it, doesn't pick up the win. I saw something like last 15 starts that he's like had like one run or less. That he like 7 of them have been no decisions, which is more than half than other players. Like he should sue. I saw a tweet like he should sue the Mets for like for non-support. That's hilarious.
I think Heyman tweeted that. Like literally MLB.
Yeah, it was Heyman. Yeah, it was Heyman.
That's so bad.
I mean, look, like, does it suck for DeGrom? Yes, but like, do pitcher wins mean anything?
No, but like, there's a difference between pitchers wins not meaning anything and like you getting absolutely hung out to dry by your team every single time you step on the mound.
Yeah.
14 strikeouts of 1-run ball. Yeah. And you don't even get the win.
Yeah.
Not even that that DeGrom necessarily cares about like the win for his own record, but just like he did more than enough to have the Mets win the game.
And it's hard to compare because like you think about like an NBA player, like they're fantastic and their team sucks and they lose. Like that is just like, that's your team losing. Like DeGrom, you pitch once every 5-6 days, and it's not even like you're like, I don't give a shit if I'm like my record in my whole like career, my 14-year career, or whatever is like 70-20. I don't care about. Yeah, I just want to literally win some games every time like every time I leave the fucking game, like you're just like we lose, you know, like Subway Series coming up if we're able to play it. A shame DeGrom's not going to pitch against the Yankees, but he just wanted to pitch. He wanted to pitch in his regular spot.
The Yankees need to get back on track this series, big time.
Yeah. Well, Aaron Judge came back. I don't know what the status on.
Probably.
What?
I don't even want to think about it.
He's hurt again?
Potentially.
I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Really. Jeez, man.
All I'll say,
it sucks. All I'll say is as long as you're ready by the playoffs, it doesn't really matter. You guys are going to make the playoffs. You guys are going to make the playoffs.
Yes.
Some surprises.
Coming up, man.
What?
Deadline's coming up.
True. It's going to be interesting to see what they do.
I mean, Taiwan Walker stopped the presses. Traded to the Blue Jays for the old PTBNL.
Yeah.
Love it. I mean, literally, who cares?
Yeah, literally. The Blue Jays needed more starting pitching. They got it.
Exactly. Cool. And I think the dominoes will be Trevor Bauer and Mike Clevenger. Those are the two like big names that I've seen thrown around the most. And Bauer is arguably the best pitcher in the league right now. Him or like Shane Bieber probably.
Yeah. Well, I think
I throw DeGrom out there too, but
yeah. Garrett Cole, man, had a stinker the other day.
Yeah, not a great start for Cole. I mean, I don't know, he hasn't really had his best stuff yet. It's remarkable. You look at like his starts and like Garrett Cole's like not his best stuff is like a dream for 95% of the pitchers in the league.
I mean, we're literally holding it to
we're holding it to like a top 2 pitcher in baseball standard as we should.
Yeah.
Like guy with 300 plus strikeouts the season ago.
Yeah. I mean, it won his last 20 games in the last 28 starts.
25.
It was 20. No, 28 games. It was 20 straight in the regular season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just very curious to see how aggressive teams are at the deadline. With half the league making the playoffs, I feel like we'd be more inclined to see more teams buying. But then you're also kind of considering like
at the same time, it could go either way.
Because it's just like a lot of owners and a lot of front offices are going to be looking at is like the revenue increase that you get from making the playoffs in a season where you're losing a lot of money. Just making the playoffs is more money in your pocket.
Yeah, but are you going to go all out just to make the playoffs? Like, I would think that it is literally easier. It's the easiest it's ever been to make the playoffs in the MLB. So I would honestly expect teams to stand pat. Just like not make huge moves because they're like, all right, we're going to make the playoffs anyway. Like, let's not fucking sell the farm.
Yeah, I mean,
it could go either way.
Line. It literally, yeah, exactly. It's like
I think maybe we'll see more teams trying to make that huge jump up to a contender, less teams making moves to, kind of get in that conversation.
Yeah. Real quick, NFL, and we'll get to the mailbag. Literally one NFL question for you. Are you buying the Cam Newton hype?
I like what I honestly like what he's been saying.
Okay.
The fact that he's been he hasn't been causing trouble, and not that I really expected him to.
Cam Newton gets a bad rap for
Yeah. All right, let's be real here. The Carolina Panthers. Yeah, the Carolina Panthers did a absolutely horrific job of managing their team, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Let's not forget they were in the Super Bowl 5 years ago. So,
Cam Newton won an MVP. Had one of the best single seasons that you and I have ever seen personally.
Well, I think that could be a reason where he's like, bro, why am I not starting? I'm literally am a former MVP, and he has been from what I've seen from the Patriots reporters, he seems to be doing pretty well in practice and all. I mean, I don't know. This is going to be a weird Patriots
season. It's always how much are you going to believe training camp hype? Everyone looks great in training camp.
I can't. I am very curious to see not just the Patriots, all teams, how rookies adjust, because Bill Belichick said we're just throwing them into the ocean. Yeah. They're going to be drowning. It's only going to get worse. They're going to get picked on. What does Joe Burrow do? Right? He's been able to study the playbook.
Did you see Joe Burrow's new chain?
Oh, it's icy.
Ooh, Joe Burrow got a fat chain.
I honestly expect nothing less.
I'm making up the mailbag as we go because we didn't get any freaking questions. Evan's not even watching, but we didn't get any questions today. Question for you. Personally, I'd be a little concerned about Brady adjusting to the Bucs offense.
Yep.
You look at what Bruce Arians likes to do, and that's air the ball out, push the ball down the field. You look at the way Tom Brady has been so successful the last 3 or 4 seasons in the league. It hasn't been with the deep ball. It hasn't been.
Although not a huge emphasis on it. A couple seasons ago,
emphasis on it.
Certainly not this season. He did not throw it well down the field, but also did not attempt it that many times.
Well,
just wasn't the offense. He didn't have any.
For that?
Well, but also who are you throwing the ball down? Who are you throwing the ball to down the field? Mohamed Sanu, N'Keal Harry, Mohamed Sanu was not a very good
fair
receiver.
Point. That
Mohamed Sanu might not make the roster.
Really? I didn't hear that.
I literally saw Patriots reporters there saying he has been outperformed, has not played well, wow. Is in danger of not making it.
But
Mohamed Sanu, very good. Julio Jones.
Yeah. Back to what I was saying though about Brady on the Bucs. I mean, yes, he's going to be playing with the best offensive support he's had in years, by far. Mike Evans, probably the second best receiver he's ever played with. Behind Randy Moss, that's been the issue for how many years in New England? Was it we've got Brady, yeah, but who the hell is he throwing the ball to?
I still need to see Mike Evans do it on a big stage type thing. You can't just have empty stats for Jameis Winston.
I mean, Mike Evans has kind of been a top 5 wide receiver since he came into the league.
He's also been quite inconsistent at times. Again, you're talking about literally an offense where all they do is just air it out, right?
Okay, but he still produces. And they're throwing the ball to him.
I'm still taking
the Mike Evans show before Godwin broke out. Yeah, it was literally just Mike Evans.
I'm still taking 2 receivers. I'm still taking Michael Thomas and DeAndre Hopkins. I'm taking comfortably over him.
Guys, I mean, I'd put him right up there with those guys. I mean, he's a top 5 receiver in the league.
He's a top 5 receiver that Brady has probably ever played with.
He's a tier 1 wide receiver.
Yeah. Okay. So a top 5 receiver that Brady's probably ever played with. Probably.
Name me one Patriots wide receiver in the last 3 seasons that's better than Mike Evans.
And Julian Edelman is the name that comes up, but
he's not even close to Mike Evans.
Well, production-wise, he might be.
I'm talking talent-wise. Talent-wise, it's not even close. It's not even close.
Again, but you even said it yourself, right? Julian Edelman is a lot closer to what Tom Brady likes to do on offense than Mike Evans.
I mean, yeah.
So it's going to be interesting. That's what I'm saying. It's going to be interesting to see. But talent-wise, Mike Evans, top 5 receiver in the league.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be an interesting fit. I mean, if anyone's going to be able to adjust to an offense, it's going to be Tom Brady.
We also got
but it's just so different.
We're getting to the point where Brady, where it's like he is visibly declining.
Yeah.
Like he does not have.
This was the first season. This was the first season where you were like, the seasons before you were like, okay, not the Brady we're used to seeing. This season you're like, damn, they don't have good receivers. Their offensive line is depleted, but damn, he does not look that good.
No, he doesn't. And it's like, it's getting to the point where Brady is not necessarily helping things.
No. I think he will be able to adjust well. I mean, they'll simplify the offense for him if they have to. But, I mean, you need a good slot receiver.
And you got Godwin. Godwin, and you got, what's his name?
They need Humphreys back.
That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah.
Well, no, he's on the Titans.
Right.
He was on the Bucs.
Yeah.
Then the Patriots wanted to sign him. He had already signed with the Titans. Yeah, well, yeah, literally. Like, there's a reason we're talking about him right now, aren't we?
Great point, Nolan.
Yeah, Nolan also still spelling my name wrong. Got anything else, Ben?
I mean, our one mailbag question from the one and only Evan Unterreiner. And we addressed, what does the NBA season look like? I don't fucking know.
Who knows?
Really,
they're probably going to start. They're going to start playing by the weekend. Maybe start playing by tomorrow. Even the product will be fine, but what comes out of this will be very interesting to watch.
It's a very fluid situation. We know as much as you guys do.
Actually, I'm an insider, so I know more.
No, you're not. That's cool.
Yeah, no, we don't. But do check out our interview with Jake Asman, reporter with ESPN Houston, a Sports Map national host, good friend of the show. Obviously, we went to school with him. We're going to have that interview up a little later. Really interesting conversation about boycotts, what can come out of this, and then just a little bit talking about, what he's seen from the NBA playoffs. He does cover the Houston Rockets. So, Ben, always a pleasure. Thanks for joining me on this live.
Right, yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We will
follow us. Follow the page, Second Floor Sports, right here on Instagram. If you're not following, I don't know what you're doing. Follow us on Twitter at 2Floor Sports. You can find our personal Twitters. I'm at Ben Carlton, Ben_Carlton1. He's at Matias_Weilmann.
You'll have that handle soon, Ben. Don't worry.
If you guys want to do me a favor and report at Ben Carlton on Twitter, I want that handle. I need it.
Well, we also can't have 2ND Floor Sports because there's a page that hasn't tweeted since 2015 that has that handle. So you can do that too. That'd be great.
We'd appreciate it.
We'll have the interview with Jake Asman up later today, probably in the next hour. This episode will be up at the end of the day. Ben, I'll talk to you next week.
So long.